I sat across 4 people who wanted me dead, and was somehow the only one in handcuffs. Destruction of property, disturbing the peace, discharging a firearm in city limits, illegal possession of a firearm, multiple counts of torture, both physical and psychological. A lion man paced around me. The 4 terrible, horrible, no good, very bad gangsters smiled at me. I was in a room you'd see in detective movies. A tiny box with stained white brick walls, lit only by a dim yellow light that was sure to die if this interrogation lasted more than 30 minutes. There was a small wooden table that was only good for throwing pictures of crimes on and going, "Aha! I got you now, dirtbag," which coincidentally had a folder of pictures and written statements of my crimes. One detective paced around. The other, much larger detective was leaning by the door to the right of me. He slammed the table. Worst of all, 4 counts of assault and battery with a deadly weapon. A human firearm. The lion man looked at me with such intensity, it was as if he was waiting for me to explode. Growing up in Eden, you had 3 choices in life. You could be strong or you could be smart. Or both. Now one could argue, many are at this very moment, that there are more choices. Which is true, but growing up in school with giant legacy kids, while you have a giant mouth, either you get good at knocking kids out who are bigger and stronger than you, or get good at talking your way out, and learning to pickpocket helps too. Now every time I enter a room, 4 things come to mind. 1. Who is the strongest person in the room? 2. How do I get that person on my side? 3. Where are all the exits? And most importantly of all, how do I outsmart every single person in that room? So, let's look at the facts. 1. Obviously the silent giant who looks like the Minotaur's cousin is the strongest, and will play the good cop, when he'll inevitably talk. 2. Unlike the loudmouth lion, he knows I'm guilty and also happens to think I'm justified. 3. 1 exit, 1 way out. 4. Watch carefully, kiddos. I stared back at the lion detective. Sounds like a great show. Well, I scratched the back of my head. Stuff happens. I shrugged and used the dumbest voice I could handle while exclusively breathing from my mouth. I did my best to end every statement with a long pause, head tilt and... question mark. You know, sick freaks like you are the reason I still have my job. He jabbed me, not the usual context I get called that. Alright, that's enough. The Minotaur man walked over to me. Kid, you're gonna get a lot of years for this. Uh-oh, I slowly replied. So what do you have to say for yourself? Bad cop interrupted. Briefly, I considered explaining that I, a poor mistreated private investigator, was just looking for Scout's keys that she lost when we went bar hopping. That I had no clue it would end with a shootout and mobsters. Then I thought of the much stupider and superior option. I looked at the Minotaur man. I'm sorry your partner is a loud, rude, and a dirty cop. I wonder how much criminals pay him. I wondered out loud, and pointed to the lion man casually, who looked much less in the mood for yelling. The mob boss in front of me did his best not to flinch. Like, I think I've seen this guy on wanted posters. I pointed at the mob boss. And he shot at me first. I pointed to the fellow who shot at me first. I said all this in the same dumb, slightly bewildered tone that grated on everyone's nerves, especially mine. That's it! The bad cop shoved the table to the side, which crashed into the wall. He grabbed me by the collar. He moved so fast his shoes squeaked, his hair went all over the place, and his gun almost fell out. With everything you did and the witnesses that I have with written statements, people will throw away the key when they stick you in that box, he yelled, with so much spit some went in my eye. Nasty. Lay off the kid, good cop said. He called me dirty, he yelled at his partner. Unrelated fact, when I was a kid, my best friend taught me how to pickpocket. The trick is to distract them first. I whistled. They both looked at me. I pulled out a letter from this pocket. I tossed into the Minotaur man. In big, bold letters it read, "A donation," in almost incomprehensible handwriting. "May I speak now?" I dropped the childish voice. "First of all, I'm a licensed private investigator. That means I can legally conceal carry a firearm. The gun in question can't be illegal because it's technically considered an antique by law. The ammo, while loud, isn't actual ammo. It's a stun round with a little bit of black powder, which is both perfectly legal to have and carry." This statement did better than any stun round, and silenced them instantly. Discharging a firearm is illegal in city limits, but those rounds aren't actual munitions, so that's completely irrelevant. I was in a bar downtown on a weekend. There was no peace to disturb. As for the assault, they started it, which makes what I did self-defense to any sane judge and jury. I have both a witness you conveniently forgot to question, and her bar has cameras, which you also miraculously couldn't find. Torture is a very strong word for what I did, so strong it breaks the truth, I explained. Lastly, and to what will be the greatest amusement of your tired and frustrated partner, the letter in your pocket. I walked over to the table and pulled out the written statements. Has the same terrible handwriting as this written statement by a mobster who's wanted for 10,000 coin, for among other things, bribing public officials constantly. I opened the letter and pulled out a check with lots of zeros. Everyone was a mixture of enraged and surprised that they were not unable to use their mouths for words and instead settled to have them open slack-jawed. Good Cop smiled. "So in other words, can I please have that 10,000 coin now?"